Alright, on another note, welcome to an actual video. Sorry about the light, it's early in the morning, so the sun's kind of awkward. Today's video is, jobs are determined by ability and aptitudes, but a calling is decided by one's emotion. It's fucking interesting. I'm sure I took it from somewhere, right? I don't think I did it myself. Uh, so, what is the difference between a job and a calling? I've been writing an article over the past basically 2 days. The idea was to start with a thesis of what I'm doing, right? I have a startup. I've been researching it since I started these videos. When I started these videos, I remember the day. I think it was 2023, and around June, July 2023. And I very much was like, what kind of person would be able to manage this business or run and create this startup in a way that succeeds and works and. And when I answered that question, as I was answering the question, I answered it with basically I have to be able to process thoughts in a way that adjust themselves to the level that I have to be able to like process, interact, and engage with, right? Because the world and interaction is like kind of like this, and engagement is kind of like this, and process is like this grip or this grip or this grip. Maybe that's deserving of some form of note somewhere. Process, engage, interact. Process, engage, interact. Right? So something kind of came up out of it, and at the bottom, right? Like, I was like, okay, if I start thinking and I start processing my thoughts, then after a, a few many thoughts, I would be developing theories, and after a few many theories, I'd be developing philosophies, and after a few many philosophies, I'd probably be developing kind of a systematic approach to something. And what I did was I started basically recording myself, and I made it a clear point that what I would do is I would kind of like I'd post them on YouTube. For the whole point of that is in order to for accountability, right? Because like, if I do a video for myself, it kind of works a certain kind of way. But if I take a step forward and I post it publicly, then ultimately it comes with a lot more feelings and emotions between shame and between like if you're saying something that's a lie, whoever watches 2 videos in a row will probably be like, hey man, fuck off. Like, that's not what you said or whatever. So it all started when what I really just gave attention to the world, as in I tried to process where I was after leaving Africa. And then after that, I tried to observe where I was and understand the difference between the country I'm in 10 years ago and now when I left and now. And it was a neutral approach. And on the other side, I saw basically the difference in the interactive part between me and my brain as we process. And from there, many philosophies started coming about and theories and like adjusted structures for me to be like, no, this, that, this works this way, this seems like a rule that happens. And it's probably subjective. But it all started with kind of like, I would say, an empty space where I didn't get to take any decision. Where basically I allowed the decision-making process to basically be turned off, which means we did a lot more process compartmentalizing, gathering information, compartmentalizing, and kind of like connecting why this is interesting, not this. And that off part is super interesting because that off part is genuinely it's like as Debussy would talk about it, it's that the emptiness where the music lives because like when you're listening to music, you're listening to the same notes. Funny enough, every note kind of has a difference. If a note is played with a different tonality, it's the same note, it's just like a different pinch, a different spacing between other notes, a different like vibration. Like blues guitarists are famous for like how what do they call it? I don't want to use the term cadence, but they're known for how they kind of uh, like pluck the string and kind of like like you can know who B.B. King is by the way the guitar is being played, right? Like the way they tense up the string or vibrate the string. I think vibrate is what they do. So really, it's just like a gathering of all of those, and then again, without having an opinion, kind of like seeing what stays among all of them. And they kind of like start, the more you look at something, the more you start seeing the details of it. And eventually you end up seeing something beyond the information. And when that happened, it was easier to take decisions towards it. And one of the decisions was doing this. Another decision was writing a book, many books. Another decision was articles. Another decision was documenting like, growth and shit like this. And so many decisions in between started happening. I feel I could explain that as a calling, right? And the reason I say that is because you literally just, and you can't look at it as sacrifice, but I really just canceled out if the moving parts of my days. Because yeah, and you physically move in your days, but mentally, right? You're either mentally stuck, and mentally stuck happens with I don't know where to go, or I'm going in circles, right? Like, I'm doing the same things over and over again. But when you cancel out that mental movement, ultimately your brain doesn't have to kind of like, it just takes more time to compartmentalize what's already there. So realign, readjust. It's the same, right? Like if you move all day physically, you have to rest. We don't apply that for the mind, for how our mind functions and how basically we interact. So I feel that's a calling. And it really is decided by the feelings, by because you collect everything based on feel and intuition. And then suddenly, their combinations are based on the emotional triggers that you have. And it's fascinating because, it could be an emotional trigger to or away from something. And it depends on the context that you're doing. Like if I'm moving, the emotional triggers are probably going to be more risky, right? Because but if I'm standing still, and so something is a trigger, but it's not coming close to me, then I'm able to see it in a different light, right? I'm able to kind of like look at things with a lot more, I want to say, just, I want to say empathy, but the word that came to mind was closer to pity and sadness. Because everything that triggers you is kind of something that's screaming in your face, right? It's and screaming for some attention. And the same way you look at a puppy on the side of the road or a man who's in love but is not being loved back. I feel that's how triggers are. Super fun. But so yeah, a calling is decided by one's emotions. Abilities and powers and job descriptions are basically like things that are a part of your calling. But when it comes to a job, you're literally just evolving yourself in that job or in whatever you see that job to be, that structure behind it. Much more fascinating to look at the different jobs you end up doing. Don't get me wrong, your calling could be a career, right? Like my calling was completely ridiculous, was completely social, was completely systematic, was completely like world building. It's startup. But you can really be an engineer who loves engineering, right? So like everything pertaining to engineering is just kind of like a thing for you. But a job is just like I know how to do this, and I'll do it better if that's what's necessary, right? There's that kind of like difference. The emotions here that we're talking about is very much like what people I think call passion. People should people should do whatever the fuck they want. I don't care. Anyways, I feel this is a good video. Jobs are determined by ability and aptitude. Right? If you're getting a job, this is what you do. But if you're working on something, the drive is a lot more important. Beautiful. Thank you, guys. I fucking love you, as always. It's a video.